Good morning. Glad you are with me once again. And today I just want to share a bit more about myths about stress, myths surrounding stress. And I'm doing this just before I go to work. Well, have you heard people say this? Because I have. Oh, my work is very stressful, or I'm going through a very stressful divorce, or my relationship is, I'm in a very stressful relationship. All this meeting has been very stressful. This week has been very stressful, and it goes on and on and on. We use stress to describe anything that we find difficult to cope with. And so I have been um, really reflecting on the use of the word stress. And this is what I have discovered. A lot of the time, we use stress to describe how we feel, the intense pressure we feel, the discomfort we feel when are surrounded by situations, affected by circumstances, um, when people that um, we relate with put intense pressure or they make us do things that we are very reluctant to do, when we are in situations that we are very unhappy about. Stress basically used to describe anything that we find unpleasant. Today, as I've done in other clips, I want to address these myths about stress. Now, previously I have spoken about the fact that stress, which seems to be associated with negative or uncomfortable or unpleasant experiences, um, stress is often, and we don't hear people admitting that, but is often associated with so called positive experiences. Now, the theme for this series of clips on stress is letting stress refuel your passion for a fulfilled life. Exactly that. What I'm sure most of us, at least I know that it's something I identify with, but what I'm sure a lot more of us can identify with is the fact that our dream, our desire is to be fulfilled in life, to um, exercise our skills in maybe a work situation, in a productive capacity, to maximize our potential in our day-to-day activities, whether it's at work, our family, in our social interactions. And a lot of the time, it's very easy to assume that in order to attain our dreams for life, for a fulfilled life, our goals for life, we need to skip or avoid, if we can, unpleasant experiences. We need to get people, be surrounded by people, or deal with people that we get along with. We need to find a way of making people do what we want, or find a way of being pleasing. And so we have all of these, should I say, conceptions, preconceptions about how to get to um, our dream job, how to get to our far in our dream career, how to get far in our relationships. And there are materials, loads of materials written about that. The art of persuading people, how to make yourself an effective salesman. Now, a lot of these things are focused on getting what we want by making people, by being more appealing to people. And so comes this association that in order to get there, we need to choose the least stressful way. We need to find a way of making people's interaction with us or their encounter with us a non stressful experience for them. Now, in this series of clips, I have emphasized the fact that rather than going in this direction, rather emphasizing um, an approach that tends to avoid negative experiences, tends to avoid unpleasant experiences, we have to recognize that the fundamental issue is not the negative, but the fundamental issue is the recognition of the fact that what is important is not necessarily what comes at us, the triggering factors that we are all affected by, but our response to those factors. So, for example, if I'm in a work situation and which I find stressful, what counts more than anything is my response, even in those situations, and the skill or the way I can navigate my way, the way I can respond effectively to turn that apparent negative situation into an area of growth, an area of maximizing my potential. That transforms a so-called stressful situation into a situation that becomes fuel for fulfilling our goals. And so we may have a difficult work situation. We may have an unpleasant situation, relationship speaking. However, rather than just being affected and overwhelmed by that so-called unpleasant situations, we look inside ourselves. We reach out within ourselves for those skills, those capabilities. We reach out for those things that will bridge us, that will get us into um, that will keep us in the path of our dreams, regardless of what we are surrounded by. And that is what I want to emphasize. And that is how to break that myth. I'll give you an example. Not very long ago, I had a work colleague who explained to me that he wanted to move on from a particular job situation because he felt that it was a very stressful thing and felt that people were all the time misunderstanding him. And you know what? I tried to find out from him the basis of what he was saying. Was it something somebody had said? Because so far as I was concerned, I wasn't aware. I thought a lot of people felt that he was a positive contributor to what we were trying to do. And I realized something. Fundamentally, he believed that people's views about him, people's opinion about the aspect of his work counted more than his performance. So he felt that although he admitted to me that he was aware he was a good performer, he was doing very good at his job. He was, in a nutshell, telling me that he knew he was good at his job, but he believed strongly. In fact, he did not only believe that, he was convinced, passionately convinced, that it did not matter that he performed very well. What he felt mattered most was people's opinion about him in this particular job situation. Sadly to say, at this stage, I realized that nothing I said about his performance, no amount of compliment, was enough reassurance until I could say that I had the ability to influence how people perceived him. I didn't think people perceived him that negatively, but he was very convinced about that. And in the end, sadly to say, he moved on. And I've had this situation repeated a number of times in different work situations. And that brings me to this fundamental issue. There are a lot of people who have experienced stress, mainly because they have perceived that those stress triggers, or those triggers of stress, those situations that are putting pressure on them, they have somehow arrived at the conclusion that those situations matter more than their response. And that is the issue here. So long as you discount your response, so long as you discount the effectiveness of your response to situations, so long as you put that in second place to the impact of those situations, you are going to feel that pressure, that mental pressure, that intense emotional distress, which I will describe as stress. On the other hand, when you place more emphasis on your response, when you decide that in spite of the situations that are mitigating, in spite of the pressure that you are feeling from the triggering factors, you are going to make sure that you give a carefully thought of response, and you place value on your response. It could be a letter you write, it could be a phone call you make, it could be something that you do, investing some time in yourself, it could be time spent reflecting on the situation you are faced with. When you get to the place where you decide that your response does count for something, and that even though it may just be a very faltering step, it may be just a weak step, you still have a lot of conviction that you're going to respond anyway. You are going to do something about these situations anyway. When you place that value on your response, then you will find that you have begun to turn in the key to transforming a so-called stressful situation. And so that is what I mean by letting stress refuel your passion for a fulfilled life. It means that you do not deny that you are faced with those triggering factors that are putting pressure on you. But instead, your response to those triggering factors is different. Instead of just getting sunk in the pressure, be it financial, be it relationship, be it social, be work related, you take thought, you take stock of the situation, and you begin to give a thoughtful response to it. I have said in previous clips, for example, that even problems, situations that appear complicated are just an opportunity to break them into manageable sizes. And how do you do that? You invest time to analyze the situation. Now, I need to say that you cannot you cannot be so affected by the magnitude of this problem, of this situation, that you are paralyzed from action. It's very important that you don't spend time focusing on the problem to a degree. Yes, you need to have some idea of the problem. You need to have carefully think through the problem. But the focus must be on what kind of response would apply best in this situation. Friends, I'm going to end this clip here, and we will continue on this main theme of letting stress refuel your passion for a fulfilled life. And then we will be using the heading, subtitle, myths about stress, addressing the myths about stress. Thank you for your time, and until our next clip, I'm John Agbenyaga Williamson, your life coach.